Hello everyone and welcome to StudentForms Student Experience Training Webinar. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jesse Rojas and I am a Customer Success Manager here with Campus Logic. I have been in the education field for 10 plus years in various roles with financial aid, academics, and enrollment. For today's agenda, we are going to go over StudentForms introduction and what StudentForms is all about. We're going to discuss the difference between direct sign-on and single sign-on requirements. We are going to discuss common SSO login errors. There are a couple more errors that we are also going to discuss, which is error code 1005, which is C codes and rejects that prevent account creation. And then our most common error code, which is error code 1010, and we will show you how you can research that and how you can resolve that on your own. We are also going to discuss account settings and account activity within the system. We will also discuss student tasks and what that'll look like for students and the type of tasks that students will receive. We will go over the household form, which is also known as the verification worksheet, as well as the parent account creation and how that'll look like for a parent and what they will see and how they will create their accounts. Next, we are going to discuss student completion of tasks and how they will do that within the system. And lastly, we will discuss the help desk user role, what that role all entails, and then our fresh desk system, which is our ticketing system. So we'll show you how to use that and what that'll look like. So StudentForms is a student self-service portal designed to manage all activities for the verification process. StudentForms facilitates student notifications, which includes emails and text messages. It also includes document collection, which students will upload directly into StudentForms. Data validation, so this is performed off of 4 key identifiers, which is first name, last name, date of birth, and social security number. StudentForms also has the functionality of completing professional judgment appeals and SAP, which is satisfactory academic progress, and custom appeals. So if this is something that you are interested in, we do have a separate training for this. So I highly encourage you to click on that training and listen to that, as it's very informative and will show you how to use all the appeals within the system. And also student requests. So student login for direct sign-on. As you can see, for the account creation, on the left-hand side here, students will be asked for an email address. To confirm that email, choose a username, and to create a password. On the right-hand side, this is where those 4 key identifiers will come into play. This is where they will have to validate their first name, last name, date of birth, and social security number. These will have to match exactly what is on their ICER. There is an option for student ID. It is not a required field. It can be if you choose to add that in the settings. But for the most part, student ID is not a required field. Students also have the option to add their telephone number. If they do add their telephone number at the time of account creation, they will be opted into text messaging automatically. If they do not enter their telephone number here, there is a way to add their telephone number later, which we will show you later on in this webinar. And they will also be able to opt into text messaging through a different way as well. This is just the initial way for them to do so. Single sign-on. Students will only be asked for the 4 key identifiers the first time they log in, and that's it. So as you can see, this screen looks similar to what we just saw for direct sign-on the right-hand side, has all the same fields. This is the only thing that will be asked from the student if you are a single sign-on school. Common SSO login errors. If the username or password is invalid, and the student gets an access denied message, this usually indicates that there is an issue between the portal credentials with the school. And if you do see this and you have a student that reports this to you, I would contact your IT team that helps set up single sign-on, and they should be able to look into this and try and figure out the best way to move forward. Permissions denied message. This indicates that the information being sent to student forms may have an error in it. You should create a fresh desk ticket, which we will discuss how to do that a little later on in this webinar. You will also want to contact your IT team to make sure that there isn't any SSO claims that need to be updated. We want to make sure that we are working hand in hand to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. Error code 1005. So as I have mentioned, we have 4 key identifiers. Those 4 key identifiers have to be valid on the ICER in order for us to create that account for that student to link to. You will notice that all of these common codes have something to do with first name, last name, date of birth, or social security number. So if any of these come up on the student ICER, we will not be able to create their account within Student Forms. The ICER will need to be fixed before their account can be created. This error code will also go into the invalid ICER report, which we will show you how to pull that report as well. You can also contact or reach out to your personal CSM, and they will also show you how to pull that invalid ICER report. C codes and rejects that prevent account creation. Match flags. If anything comes in other than SSN4, the student will not be able to create an account. This is another data validation that the student will need to get corrected before an account can be made. This is also used to validate against the ICER. Error code 1010, our most common error code. This is when a student is entering information incorrectly or a valid ICER has not been imported into student forms. Common data entry errors could be a student is using a nickname instead of their full name, so they're using Mike instead of Michael, or Rich instead of Richard. They may have entered extra spaces between their names. They could have included a suffix like junior on their FAFSA and not when they are creating their account in student forums. If you hear students say that they are getting this error code, these will be some of the reasons why. The data that they are entering must match what they entered in the FAFSA exactly. So you will still be able to see the ICER even if the student has not created their account, and you will be able to kind of validate both ICER information and what the student is entering. So you can kind of talk them through it, research through it, and walk them through that process to make sure that they are entering that correct information correctly. Next, we're going to go into a Student Forms demo. So let me pull that up for you. Here we go. So we are going to go through 2 students today, an independent student and a dependent student. So that first student that we are going to walk through is an independent student. Before we go into that student really quick, I wanted to show you this is what the student will see when they log in to Student Forms. Now this is all going to be branded to your school, so you'll see your school's logo up here as well as your school's colors. So they won't see Campus Logic at all. They won't even know that we exist. We don't have any of our branding in any of our school's environments. It will all be branded to your school. So if they come down here, click on Create Account, this is where we'll see that information. So all of our training environments are direct sign-on environments. So You will see this information at the top where you'll have to enter in an email and password and a username. But you'll also see where the 4 key identifiers here where you'll enter. You can enter in the telephone number, accept the privacy policy, and then create the account. All right, let's go into that independent student. This independent student's name is Stanley Student-Side. We can see that here on the right-hand corner where we have a little drop-down. Now, there's lots of logic that's built into the system to determine based off of V groups and C codes what type of tasks need to populate for that student. So as you can see, there is 4 tasks for the student for the 1928 year. We see the red circle with the number 4 on it, and if we scroll down, we can see that there are 4 separate tasks for that student to complete. Now, for the appeals, we won't get into this too much, but there is a request button here, and this is how a student can request an appeal, whether it be staff or PJ. They can add it here for a specific aid year. As you can see, the dependency appeal is not highlighted because this is an independent student, so they cannot do a dependency appeal. But this is a way for a student to create this. Now, this is also within the settings and can be turned off. So if you do not want your students to have access to this or have the ability to request an appeal, this can be turned off and this will disappear for the student. So if you're a school that wants that student to log in or come into your office and just have that discussion with you first, and then you can add that. If you click on the appeals training, will show you how to do that within the settings, and also in the admin training, we will touch on that a little bit on how you can add that as an administrator. So if we go down here, we do see Stanley Student-Side, there's a little drop down. We can click down. We have Home, which is on the current page that we are on. We have Profile. Now, Profile will give us some student information. Now, based on if you are a direct sign-on school or an SSO school, will kind of determine how your profile will look for the student and what information can be updated. You will also see here there's a big verify button. So this student has not verified their email address as of yet. If you would like them to verify that, you can click on that, or if they can't find their email address or on the phone with you, they don't have that email that was sent to them, you can click on verify and they'll resend the verification email so that they can verify their email address. This is important for mostly direct sign-on schools because if a student is having issues with their password and you need to get that reset, this email address must be verified prior to them resetting their email. So now you can also add their preferred telephone number. This is where you will add their telephone number if they want to opt into text messaging. Make sure that that's correct. And then you can come down here and subscribe to text messaging for StudentForms. All right, so lastly, we are going to go back in here really quick and discuss account activity. Now, StudentForms has the ability to allow the students to see all their account activity that's going on. So as you can see, we have the system, there was an account created, tasks were completed, not completed, I apologize, were opened, and we have where the student has logged in with the IP address. Now, you will see, and we will show you once we start completing things, that the account activity will show once tasks are submitted and once everything goes on. So this is a way for a student to kind of see what's going on within the account. Also, you as the administrator also have the same view, which we will show you in the admin training how you can see that. But we also have communication activity. So let's just say that a student said they never received an email, they never received a text message. They can also come into account activity, and all the communication that's sent out through StudentForms will be logged here in the communication activity. They can click on the little type. It'll say email. If it's a text, it'll say text, but they can click on it and it'll show the message that was sent to the student. So if you do have someone calling in saying that they didn't receive some of these communications, one thing you'll want to just make sure is that we do have a valid telephone number and a valid email on file. All right, let's jump into some of these tasks. The first task that we're going to go into is the independent verification form. So we'll click on this little drop down. It'll show us a little brief description of the form, but we are going to click on fill out. If you've ever done TurboTax, that software pretty much takes you through each section of the form prior to showing you the whole form in its entirety. That's how StudentForms works as well. It's going to take the student through each section of the form and have them complete that first before it shows them the whole form. So here we have the demographics. It will pull in from the ICER, so it'll pull in that information. They are able to change it, so if the phone number is wrong, they can get that updated as well. If they do change the telephone number here, it will not do anything with text messaging. This is simply for the form. But if everything looks right, we are going to go ahead and continue. And we are going to go into the household section of the verification worksheet. Now in the household section, the student is automatically added with their information, so they don't need to do that. But if they need to add in spouse or any dependents, they can come down to the bottom and click on add. We'll go ahead and add a wife. So let's add Sarah, student side. Give her a date of birth. And here it's going to ask for the relationship. So as you can see in the drop-down, we have spouse, child/stepchild, and other. Now, because this is an independent student, this is the options that are given. If it were a dependent student, they would have the option to add a parent. If the student did choose other, let's say they do have someone they support and they want to add them in here. So let's say roommate. We do have a little disclaimer here saying that I do certify that I will provide more than 50% financial support for this person between July 1st, 2019 and June 30th of 2020. So please note, you may be required to provide additional documentation confirming financial support. If this is correct, they will hit yes. If it's not correct and they do not support them more than 50%, they will choose no. And it will let them know that they cannot add this person if they are not financially supported by them more than 50%. As you can see, they will not be able to do anything here other than cancel out of this, or they can come back in here and add a different person, change their relationship, say that is the spouse. So we'll just go ahead and add them, click done, and they are automatically added to the household section of the form. As you can see, all their information is here. They can edit it if they've entered in the wrong, name, and maybe they misspelled it, or the age is wrong. They can edit that information. They can also delete out this person if they don't want them to be on this form. Since everything looks good, they do have the option to keep adding as many people as they would like that are in their household. Or if everything looks good, they can continue. And we are going to move to the student tax section. So the student tax section, in my opinion, is the most important because you can do a lot of troubleshooting here. StudentForms has a lot of logic that's built into it, so based off of what students answer to these questions is going to determine what's going to happen next within the system. So for example, if we come down here, there's lots of information as to, I'm single, I am married, my spouse and I filed separately, my spouse and I filed jointly, lots of different options that they can choose from. So let's say, this student didn't really read and just put in I am single, and then continue to go through. The logic that's built in will now prompt a new task to populate asking the student for a divorce decree. The reason for this is because the FAFSA is saying that the student is married, and now the student is entering here that they're single, so it's kind of contradicting what the student had to put on the FAFSA, so it's going to want to ask them for additional information. So vice versa, if the student is single and accidentally put I am married and my spouse and I will file our taxes jointly, the student or the system is going to ask the student for a marriage certificate. So if you ever get a telephone call that says, I'm getting asked for a marriage certificate and I don't know why because I'm not married, this is where you would want to go back to and kind of look at how the student answered these questions. Now, the good thing about StudentForms is you will have visibility into this section and into all the sections that the student is answering within this form. So within the admin training that we do have, which I would highly recommend that you click on and listen to, it will show you how you as an administrator can look into this and kind of see what the student is answering. It'll show you exactly, you can't change anything that they've answered, but you can see it so you know how to guide them. So if that happened, you would have to say, well, it looks like you said you were married, but you are single, so you have to go back in there and put in that you're single, and it will then update and remove those tasks for that student. I hope that makes sense. But for this example, the student is married and the spouse and the student filed jointly, so we're going to choose that. And here it does give an option to log into the FAFSA to use the DRT tool. This option will only populate if the student was eligible to use the DRT tool. And we can determine that through the ICER and the DRT tool code. So if they weren't presented with the option, or they didn't have the option, or they were not eligible for the option, this will not appear for the student. For this example, we will choose, I will upload a copy of our 2017 tax transcripts from the IRS, and we are going to continue. So now you can see we have a nice form here that's all filled out with that information that we went through in each section of the form. And all that's left is for us to sign this verification worksheet. Now there are a couple of options here. We can sign it. For direct sign-on schools, the student will use the password that they created at the time of account creation. So whichever password that they use in order to sign into StudentForms, they're going to use to sign the verification worksheet. If you are a single sign-on school, there will be a little drop-down here, not a drop-down, but a little button that says, please create a PIN. And an 8-digit PIN will need to be created for single sign-on students in order to sign the verification worksheet. You can also choose to opt out of e-signature, which if you do so, a drop-down will come in letting you know that you will need to download the form, print it out, give a wet signature, and then you can also upload that back into the system. So it'll provide an upload link for the student as well. So they can either do it through their phone by taking a picture or by scanning the document and uploading it through a computer. Now, one thing with e-signature and also dependent students is if the student decides to do an e-signature, the parent will need to do an e-signature too. If the parent does not feel comfortable with doing e-signature and only wants to do a wet signature, the student will have to come back into the form and opt out of e-signature and also provide a wet signature. Both signatures have to be exactly the same for student and parent. So it has to either both be wet signature or both be an e-signature. And this is in order to be compliant with the e-signature laws. So we are going to go ahead and sign this form. We're going to click e-sign. We're going to get consent of use of electronic signature. And we're going to click accept. All right, so now it's saying that we successfully e-signed this document and it has automatically been uploaded to the system. But based on our answers, it looks like there is an extra step that we need to complete. So we need to provide a copy of the student and spouse 2017 federal IRS tax return transcript. So now we're going to click OK. It's going to take us out of this. We're going to see this part of the form is complete, but now we have an upload link so that we can upload those tax transcripts. So let's go ahead and click on Upload. And I do have a sample copy of the the student and spouse tax transcript. Here we go. All right, so if they're uploading this through a computer, it might be just one image that's coming in. They can look through it, make sure it's not blurry, make sure everything is here and everything looks good. And we're going to go ahead and use this copy. Now it's going to ask if we'd like to add additional pages. So add pages, as we can see here. Now this is if maybe you have multiple files on your computer that you need to upload, so you can upload both files if you need to. But let's say you're on the phone and you're completing all your verification off of your cell phone, and you took 7 pictures of your tax transcript. You can upload each page and each picture by just adding pages to this. So you'll just keep adding additional pages until you complete and get all the full tax transcript on here. The good thing about StudentForms is that once a student does submit their tax transcript, and they're doing that by picture, the system will go ahead and convert that to one PDF file for you to review once it goes into the admin side and it's ready for you to review that. So you won't have to be flipping through each page or going through each image. It'll all be one picture, one PDF file for you. So we're going to click no because we have no additional pages. You can see we have a green circle with white check marks on both. Everything looks good there. Now we can submit this task. All right, so we got a white check marks indicating that this task is now complete. We can also see that it's complete by this red circle. It used to say a 4 in here, and now it says a 3. So now we're able to go down to our next task, which is proof of graduation. So here is where we have a brief description on what proof of graduation is, and you can read more to see what documents are acceptable as far as proof of graduation. And also show less. And then we're going to go ahead and upload, say, a high school diploma. Okay. As you can see here, we have our high school diploma. We can even rotate it so we can see it better. There we go. We're going to go ahead and use this document. We're not going to add any additional pages since we only have one. And we're going to submit this task. So now we have 2 tasks that are complete. As you can see, they're really easy, really simple to go through, user-friendly. And we're going to go into selective service task. Now this task is depending on how you answered, or it may be you're female that answered this wrong on the ICER. You can say I was born female. I was born male with a date of birth before 1960. However, whatever the case may be, there's lots of answers here. What we're going to choose is I have already registered. Now it's going to ask me for an upload link to upload the registration. So let's see here. We have selective service. All right, so I have a little print screen of my online verification. Shows that I have registered and I did register, so I'm all good to go. I'm going to use this. So, excuse me. I'm not going to add any additional pages. And I'm going to go ahead and submit that task. Awesome. So we have 3 tasks completed out of the 4. We have 1 more, which is a statement of educational purpose. Now, the statement of educational purpose is going to be the one task that the student is not going to be able to complete on the first try. The reason for this is the requirements for turning in this form. So if we click on here, we will click on download, which will give us the form and some pre-populated information, so the demographic information here. As you can see, if you scroll down, we have all this information, even the notary on here, that they can get notarized. And then they will either need to mail this in or provide this form in person to your office. Now, if you click on the admin training, we will show you how you as the administrator can upload that form once you have received it. So this is as far as a student can get. There's nothing more that the student can do now. As you can see, the task is not completed, so the system is set up to continue to send out reminders that this task is complete until they get it into you or send that form into you. So I know some of you may be thinking, well, if that's all that they can do, what if they forget about it? The system will still constantly remind them through email, and if they set up through text messaging, through text, that they have outstanding tasks. So there will still be reminders that are going out until this is complete. All right, so that's as far as we can get with the independent student. Like I said, if you click on the admin training, we will show you how to upload that independent statement of educational purpose form to the student's account. All right, so we are going to go ahead and click out of the student. And we are going to go into a dependent student. So I've already created our dependent student for us today so that we can speed things along. I have also completed the household form. I added both mom and dad for the student. I have also added the parent text transcript, as this is similar to what we saw when we did this for the independent student. All right, so let's refresh this. We will go back into our dependent student. Just 1 second here. All right, so here we go. Here's our dependent student, dependent verification worksheet, complete. You can see that here. And we've also uploaded the parent text transcript. And we also sent a request for this form to be completed. So here we go. Just so you know, you can always edit the request. It'll give you this information here. This is where we decided to choose the parent number 1 on the FAFSA. You can also choose parent number 2, doesn't matter. As long as you have the correct email address, you can send the request. So we've already sent that request over. And we are going to go ahead and see what that request looks like. So here we have Karina Dependent. And this is the email that this parent will receive for that student. So I'll give it just a minute here so you can read through that. So as you can see here, that they have letting them know that the student is requesting for their signature to be done. They have a link, so we can click on the link here, and that'll give them the link to StudentForms. So it'll give them the link to create their account here. and it'll give them information for themselves, so they'll be able to provide their email address, choose a username as well, um, create a password, and then here it's going to ask them for their information. So this information also needs to be validated against the ICER. So it has to match exactly what was entered into the FAFSA. And then it'll lastly ask for the student information. So this will also have to match and make sure that they have all their correct information here for the student. Once they have entered everything here, they will be able to create their account, which we already have. So let's see, hopefully this works. If not, we can go ahead and enter it, but here we go. So this is what the parent account looks like. So it's very simple, doesn't have much to it. But here we can see 1920 and then the 1920 dependent verification web form. We're going to go ahead and preview this. And the parent will be able to review all the information that's on the web form. Now, the parent is not able to change any information here. So they can't, if something is wrong, they're going to need to contact their child and let them know that this needs to be updated. They can say form not approved and then click on OK. This will let them student know that the form was not approved by them. And the student will have to go back in there and make the changes. The parent will not be able to make those changes. But if everything looks good and everything's ready to go, they have two options. They can here opt out of e-signature, which will then let the student know that the parent has opted out of e-signature, or they can e-sign it here. And if they do, this will be the same password that they use to create the account. So let's see here, we'll go ahead and sign that. And we'll e-sign it. We get our consent to use of electronic signature. You have successfully e-signed the document and you will now be taken back to the document list. So now you can see everything is complete. There's nothing more needed from the parent. And StudentForms is also sending the student an email notification letting the student know that the parent has successfully signed that verification worksheet. So now they are able to go back into StudentForms and complete the rest of their tasks. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and log back in as the dependent student so we can see. And let's click here. And now you can see, congratulations, the form has been e-signed, and you may now submit for review. So everything's good to go. They've signed it. The parents have signed it. It's all done. That was the only task that this student had. So now we can submit that. It's all complete. And the last step, and this step we weren't able to see because the independent student, we weren't able to complete all those tasks due to the statement of educational purpose. But this is the last step. So the finish button, this green finish button. This is, there's also a setting within StudentForms that if the student has completed everything, let's say this is their last step and they just log out, they don't hit the finish button, they log out. There is a setting within StudentForms that will automatically hit that finish button for that student after a certain period of time that the school chooses. So most schools choose like about an hour, give the student about an hour, and then it will automatically hit that finish button. Now this will only happen if all the tasks are completed. So there's check marks on all the tasks. If there's an open task and the student hasn't completed, there will be no finish button, so it won't even be an issue. But it is a good feature because sometimes the students are just in a rush and they just forget to hit the finish button. So we'll go ahead and do that, let them know, congratulations, this is complete, you're all done. No further action is required from yourself. So as you can see, it's very user-friendly for both student, parent, and even staff, and you'll see that in the administration training. So we'll go ahead and log out of the dependent student, and we're going to go into a help desk user and take a look at this role. So we'll go ahead and log in. Now, the help desk user role is a view-only role. So this is maybe for someone who might be at your front desk answering student questions. Maybe you have some student workers that are in your office and you don't want them to be able to do anything except for to have view-only access to review, maybe do some research on some students, things like that. They only have those read-only privileges. So they don't have the ability to approve forms, review documents, or make changes on the student's behalf. So what we're going to do is we're going to search for Karina dependent here, and we can search here. We'll type in Karina. All right. So as you can see, Karina dependent, this is the student that we were working off of. So if this student called in and had some questions, they are able to see profile settings, so they can come in here and view those profile settings. This is similar to how we went in and we saw the student profile settings. This is exactly the same. They can see this here. They will be able to send the verification email. So if they need them to verify that email address, the help desk user will be able to send that. But this is what they'll be able to see, add the telephone number, those types of things. They'll be able to do that here. They will also be able to see who or which parent is the one that signed the form, is the one that logged in and created an account. As you can see, the parent here has their first initial and their last name, email address, the date and time it was created. So they have the access to the student parent users. They do have access to deactivate an account. So if you choose to give the help desk user access to this, you can also tell them not to. We can't not give them the access, they will still have it, but to deactivate an account, and when they deactivate an account, what this does is basically stops all communications that the system is giving out to the student. So let's say if they didn't finish all their tasks, they called in and say, hey, I'm no longer attending your institution. I don't want any more communications from your school. You can deactivate, click deactivate, and you'll see here, you'll have a yellow line here that says that's currently deactivated. You'll still be able to come in here, review the student, see the student, things like that, but this just stops the communications from going out. You can also activate it right away if it was a mistake. It's not a big deal, and it activates it right away. All that goes away. So here is actually where you can see a little preview, is the account activity. Now you can see more things have happened. You know, parent account was created, student profile phone number was updated, tasks were completed, things were submitted, and then you also see there's more communications that went out. So there's more emails that happened. There's lots and lots of communications that are going out within StudentForms. So as you're doing things within the system, so if you reject documents, if you are requesting additional documents, we're doing a lot of different things. All this communication is going out automatically. So that's something that's going to stop for you as the institution. Like if you won't have to notify the student manually all the time because the system is automatically going to do that for you. Great thing, because I know that when I was in the financial aid office, I know that anytime that I had to do something, it was either an email, a phone call to that student letting them know that action was required on their behalf. Now all that, you can use that time to do other things, more productive things, because the system is going to send out all those email notifications for you, letting them know that if any action is required on their end, that's going to be sent, that the email notification will be sent out to them. So a pretty good thing. And then if we go in here, transaction type, and we choose verification, so now the help desk user has insight into everything here. So as far as, you know, common codes, what the EFC is, what the DRT codes are, and the student IRS DRT display flag, what verification group they are on, if they're dependent or independent students. So this has a D for dependent and I for independent. If they want to know what the comment codes are, they can click on that and it'll give them a brief description of what each comment code is. You also have access to this as a help desk user, not a help desk user, an FAO. There's lots of different things. This is just a view only for the help desk, but it also shows the student side. So it'll show, if you recall earlier when I told you about the student tax section, how important that was, this is where you can come in. The student view side is where you can see everything that the student has done. So you can view the form through each section. So let's say, okay, how did you answer that? Let's go through the parent tax section. Oh, well, it says you're married. That's why it's asking you for a marriage certificate because you're single on the FAFSA. You'll need to come in here and change that. This is why the system's asking you for it. Or you can come in here and view the form as a whole. You can come and click and see the completed verification worksheet, see the signature that they have, the parent signature, or you can see the tax transcripts. So you have access into everything that the student can see, which is really, really great. Because if we all know now, we don't know what the student's doing. We don't know where they're at. We don't know what they're answering. We don't know how to help them because it's very hard to see when you can't visibly see what they're doing. Now you can. You can visibly see everything that they're doing, which is really, really great. Here, under file review, you can see, like, the help desk user will be able to determine, okay, your files have not been reviewed. It looks like our financial aid office is still going through each file. They can't make any corrections, but here's where corrections will be done. And we'll be showing you a lot more in detail under the admin training webinar, so I do highly recommend you clicking on that because we'll be going into how you do everything on the administration side. We'll be going into this to a lot more detail, so definitely click on that. To show you here a little bit more. Now, we will also just come here and let's look at a student that has not created an account, just so you can see. So as you can see, no student account was created. You can see we can't even click on the verification to see what tasks there are because tasks are not created until the student goes in there and creates an account. So, but you'll be able to see limited information. On the admin side and the admin training, we'll show you how to open up those tasks that the student will already have based off of verification groups and C codes. So we'll show you how you can open that so you can see, or if you wanted to add additional tasks earlier, we can show you how to do that. So we'll go over that in the administration training. So look out for that. We will go over that a lot in detail then. The last thing I do want to discuss here is the help desk. So you as the administrator, anybody for any roles have access to our Fresh Desk. This is where our Fresh Desk will look like. Now, not everybody will have access to open tickets. If you do have the ability to open tickets, you will see this little plus sign here that says new support ticket. You'll be able to see all this information. And now that'll depend on your leadership on who will have the permissions to open up tickets. But if you do have that ticket, you can open it up here. We'll say click on new support ticket. It'll give you as the requester. You'll just enter the subject line as to like a brief description of what's going on. And then here under the description, give a very detailed description as to what's going on with the student or the account or any of the issues that you're having. Let us know. If you can provide a screenshot of something or an example, or give us the student name that it's happening to so that we can do our research and look into it, the more information that you give us, the easier that it is for us to research that for you and give you a one-stop resolution. If you give us very vague information, it's very possible that we're going to come back with a lot of questions, like, can you give me a screenshot of the error that you're getting? Can you give me the student name or student ID number so that I can look at the student and see what the issue is and kind of research it ourselves. So if you provide all that information the first time, we won't have to play that back and forth game of us asking for information. So here we also have our solution articles. So we have release notes. Release notes are everything, enhancements that happened within the system, updates that happen within the systems. You can see that here. Getting started in student forms, if you want to see little things that talk about student forms, hands-on practice, things like that. We have um, things to do with integration. We have document review. We have trainings. We have things on appeals. We have video trainings. We have reports. We have support, FAQs, lots of different information here that you can read up on and kind of research things and kind of troubleshoot things on your own. So a library full of information to help you out. If you're trying to resolve something quickly, you can come in there. But best case scenario is to open up a support ticket. Support ticket is handled by all of our CSMs within our company, and we do like to resolve those as quickly as possible. So any issue that comes through, just open up a ticket. Now we do also have some information here, like our support email, our support number. Now our support email and number are for you and your staff only. So we will support you as the institution in any way that we can. What we won't support is we do not support students or parents. So please do not give our support information to a student or a parent because we will not be able to answer any questions for them. If we do get a phone call from the student, we will redirect them back to your financial aid office. Now, just a little warning that when a student is calling in, sometimes they're frustrated. Sometimes they can't figure something out. Sometimes, with technology, things are new. They can get frustrated. They might be mad. So when we have to redirect them, that might make them even more escalated. So that's something you want to avoid. We don't want to escalate your students even more, but we will not support them because we cannot give them advice. You will be the only one that can give them advice. So hopefully I can't stress that enough. Just please don't give that information to your students, but you can use that all you want. We will support you 100%. Awesome. All right, so questions. If you do have questions, concerns, or anything about this webinar, anything that you've seen on this webinar, please reach out to your CSM. If you do not know who your CSM is, then reach out to your leadership who is working with Campus Logic so that they can reach out and ask those questions. We definitely want to make sure that we're answering any questions. This is just a high-level overview. You will be getting additional hands-on training by your CSM as we're doing the onboarding process of student forms. So I hope this was useful information. I hope you learned something. I hope you're excited to see that some of these things, how they're going to be working, how it's going to help you as a financial aid staff make your life a little bit easier. I know I was excited when I saw this, so I hope you're excited as well. Please make sure that you click on the administration training to learn a little bit more. On your side, we will go into detail about that. We also have our SAP and PJ webinar that you can also click on to see how the appeals work within student forms and the functionality of how that works. Other than that, thank you so much for joining this webinar and have a great rest of your day.